Hey guys, today we're going to talk about the story of the swords in the minor arcana. I have other videos that separates the major and the minor arcana, and this one is just going to focus on the ace through 10 and the four court cards of the swords. Now, swords are representative of the air signs as far as astrology goes. Does not mean you're dealing with an air sign. It just means it's air energy. These are cards of communication, of intellect, of rational thinking, of any matters that have to do with written, spoken, any kind of communication that comes from the headspace, not from the heart space. Okay? So, as all of the four suits of the minor arcana, this one is going to have an ace through 10. And then, like I said, the four court cards, which are going to be the page, the knight, the queen, and the king. Now, when we start with the swords, it's the ace of swords is first. Aces are new beginnings. Okay. So this is what's considered the sword of truth. And you're going to see several different pictures of it. And first of all, I'm using the Rider-Waite because this is the deck that most people are most familiar with. Thousands of decks out there, but these are usually the images most people know, just to make it more familiar for you, so that when you watch a reading or if you're starting to read cards on your own or anything like that, usually the Rider-Waite is one of the best places to start, because you're going to see that imagery portrayed most often for cards. Now, like I said, that ace is called the sword of truth. There are going to be several different pictures where you're going to see someone in the swords, or even some of the minor arcanas where they're holding this sword. The sword of truth means that there is clear, direct communication that needs to be spoken. You may not like what you're going to hear, but it's going to be spoken anyway. This is when someone's throat chakra is bursting open. They have things to say. Communication is going to come in. If you're waiting on communication or anything like that, this is a card that you want to see. Again, it's the sword of truth. So it is always, the truth is always going to be spoken, or is going to come to light when you see this card. The two of swords. You are at some sort of a crossroads. That person has blinders on because they're unsure of which path to take, because there's been communication that has come in from both paths, but you're not quite sure because you don't necessarily have all of the information. You're also afraid of being blindsided, which is why the blindfold is on, and the moon is in there because the moon is representative of illusions. When we see this card, sometimes when we're at a crossroads, it's because it's a minor arcana card. So we've put ourselves in that energy because we don't quite know which path we're supposed to take. So a lot of times you're just sort of waiting and, mulling over both decisions and seeing which is the best fit for you. Three of Swords. When we see the Three of Swords, someone is in incredible heartbreak, has experienced a very severe loss, generally in the area of love, because it's going through the heart, but it doesn't mean that it has anything to do with that. It could be any kind of a big loss that has really, really hurt you to the core. Could be someone has passed, could be you've lost a job, anything along those lines that's going to lead to a severe feeling of heartbreak and loss is when we see the Three of Swords. That's why all the arrows are depicted as going through, all of the swords rather, are depicted as going through the heart. It's because your heart is done. You cannot handle anymore. When you see that card, it's someone's heart is fully closed off. Usually because they've received very harsh I don't know what's going on. My throat chakra is having a problem. Harsh communication. When we see this card is usually why we see it. Four of Swords is usually the rest after the heartbreak. It's when you take it upon yourself to put yourself in a mode of healing, when you know you need a timeout, whether it be a mini timeout like a nap, or a timeout like a vacation, or a timeout like retreating from people and not wanting to go out, or whatever it is. This is when it's time for self-care. You are wounded and you need to chill and separate yourself from, anybody else or anything else. It's the rest, repose kind of time. Five of Swords is, we see the Five of Swords when there's a lot of fighting, usually external conflict. The Five of Wands is more about mental conflict, where this one is more about external. You're fighting with a lot of people around you. Generally, when I see this card, it's usually in the workplace, but it doesn't have to be. It could be at home, could be everywhere. You have to be careful when you see this card. I call it the fuck around and find out, because if you continue the battling, you're not going to like the end result. This is someone who is very ready to continue a battle, to keep going, to fight to the end. It's a card of pure ego. So it does not matter how much they hurt you with what they say, or they are going to do it anyway. So when you see this card, your best bet is to walk away from it in as much as you can, because if you continue, this person, no matter who gets hurt, is going to continue on with the fighting. Six of Swords, after all the fighting and you realize that it's over and it's done, it's time to walk away. And this is when you move off into calmer waters. The five is, those are the turbulent waters, but fives are also cards of change. So when we get into the six, we try to move towards stability. So this is going into the calm seas from the rocky seas. It's where you take what's yours and what's good, you put it in that boat and you ride right off with it, and you leave the storm that is usually what precedes a card like this. Seven of Swords. Seven of Swords is a very heavy card when you see it. It's about lies, cheating, deception. It's you starting to figure out, because of the things that have come to light, which of those swords that you need to move off with and go into a different direction with, because this is not going to serve your benefit anymore. This is usually about deception, cheating, really things along those lines that you have now figured out through communication, through being told. A third party energy a lot of times will tell you, I saw your boyfriend here or there with this, whatever it might be, but someone will communicate with you, and that's how the secrets and the lies get exposed. So this is when you leave a situation, take off with what's good, and leave the rest behind. Eight of Swords, you are in a mental imprisonment. You are not really stuck there if you don't want to be. You are afraid to continue with something because you feel very, very much in your head about something. You're putting you have a blindfold on, though, that you could if you look at her closely, she's not really shackled all that tightly. She could get out of that bind if she wants to. So you are able to separate yourself from this mental anguish of not knowing which way to go, because you are in your headspace very, very much. This is a card of fully being in the headspace and only trying to use logic and reasoning to get out of something. The Nine of Swords. When we see the Nine of Swords, that mental anguish has turned into your worst nightmare. It is not being able to sleep. It is not being able to function. You are reliving something over and over all day long. It's haunting your dreams. It's haunting your daydreams. You don't even want to get up and out of bed in the morning. This is really a card of feeling like you cannot hear anything else. No more negative, no more. It's starting to become way too much for you when you see this card. Ten of Swords. You are feeling very backstabbed, very betrayed, very much like all of those swords are in your back. I mean, as you can see it in the picture. It's when you have hit the final straw in how much you can handle with something. This is the ultimate betrayal. This is not, a little white lie that someone told you that doesn't really affect you. This is, family secrets that change your life. This is communication that has come and shaken up your whole world to the very core, where you feel fully, fully defeated. But it's a card. It's a 10 card, which means it is the ending of a cycle. It's as bad as it's going to get. This is rock bottom. Okay, so once you see this card, rock bottom has already come, and there's after the 10, then we start again with with aces. And with the aces, then are the new beginnings. So sometimes we have to get to this point, this very rock bottom of feeling like it's done, it's over, we can't take any more, no more betrayal, no more lies, no more secrets, no more harsh words, none of it anymore. And we close that cycle out so that we can begin anew. Now with the court cards. Pages. Pages are cards of movement and wanting something different, wanting to explore, wanting to find things. This is someone finding out a lot of things about you. I call it my stalker card because this is somebody who is watching you very, very closely, paying attention to your every move, gathering and studying and finding out every single bit of information. If it's not in a reading like that, with that's the energy around it, then it's someone who is just trying, like has a very intense focus on something and on trying to figure out something, everything they possibly can, reading everything about something, learning everything about something, writing everything down. It's an energy like that of someone who is trying to gather as much information about a situation as possible. But again, when you see that card, somebody is very much in your energy field that you usually don't know about, that is watching you very, very closely. Knights. Knights are about movement and communication, and knights have messages. So this one is, see that knight, he's holding that sword of truth. So someone has something to tell you. You better be ready for it because he's coming in fast, he's coming in heavy, and he's coming in with words that, again, you may be dying to hear. This could be, you're waiting on a call back from a job and, did you get it or not? Or you're waiting on somebody to come in and tell you the truth about a question that you asked them or something like that. Whatever it might be, he holds the sword of truth. So whatever he comes in and says is the truth, or at least his truth, that person's truth, as far as whatever it is that they want to communicate to you. Queen of Swords. She's basically the bitch in the tarot. She is who's considered the ice queen. She holds that sword of truth. She is not afraid to use it. She is very much in her power and in her element because she's not afraid to say what needs to be said, no matter who wants to hear it, who needs to hear it. If you go to her for advice, she's going to give you true advice. Sometimes you're dealing with an older female in this situation. A lot of times, by the way, they, if as far as features go, the sword cards are, you're dealing with someone who has darker skin, darker features, things like that a lot of the time. So brown hair, brown eyes, brown skin. Anything like that. So they tend to be, they're not fair or pale, or usually, it doesn't have to go that way. It's like I said, it's more a matter of the energy. But sometimes when people, want to know who it is around me, what might they look like, or when cards like this come up, sorry about that. I forgot to put private on. And then now we have the King of Swords. The King of Swords sits in his truth. Again, he holds that sword of truth. He is a lot of times a businessman, someone who has gotten to a position of authority by using his words, and he needs to use his words effectively to know how to communicate at work and at home. Somebody who is a little bit more strict, a little bit more of the rule follower, and again, always seeking that truth. By the time you've hit the King of Swords energy, that's someone who is fully capable of communicating. But again, not really from a heart space, more of a head space. So they don't, not always with finesse, a lot more with logic and reasoning, and could be a little bit of a harsh communicator. So that's the story of the swords. Again, I apologize for the interruption. I usually remember to put my phone on private, but I didn't. Stay tuned for the e-course. With the e-course, it's going to be much more in depth. This is just to give you a little bit of an overview so that whenever you're getting a reading, or it helps you to understand it a little bit more. Sometimes you'll hear different interpretations and whatnot of the cards. It's because it has to do with the surrounding cards. This is a general overview of each card individually, but then it has to be looked at with the cards around it, and then with the intuition of whoever it is who's reading the cards for you. So I hope this was helpful for you, and stay tuned for the next videos.